The alarm screamed through the cargo ship, pulling Daehyun from his coffee. He set the cup down and moved to the control panel, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. The ship's computer had picked up something unusual. A distress signal, weak and fading, coming from the edge of the system. Jimin rushed onto the bridge, her long black hair still messy from sleep. She was 16 and supposed to be experiencing the galaxy, not dealing with emergencies at 4 a.m. ship time. "Dad, what's happening?" Daehyun studied the readings. The distress signal had the standard council format, but something about it felt wrong. The signature wasn't from any species he recognized. Someone's in trouble. Bad trouble from the looks of it. Hyunsu appeared behind them, wiping grease from his hands. The engineer had been working in the lower decks again, probably tinkering with systems that didn't need fixing. He looked at the display and whistled low. "That's outside our route. Outside any approved route, actually." "I know," Daehyun said. He'd been a military officer before becoming a cargo hauler. 20 years in the Korean Space Defense Force had taught him when to follow rules and when to break them. This felt like a breaking time. The Sol Dawn wasn't much to look at. She was a medium-sized cargo vessel, old enough to have actual physical buttons alongside the holograms, tough enough to handle the rough trade routes. Daehyun had bought her with his retirement money, planning to see the galaxy with his family. So far, the galaxy had been mostly empty space and boring stations. "We're going to check it out," Daehyun announced. Hyunsu groaned. "You remember what happened last time you said that? We ended up stuck on that ice moon for 3 days. This is different. You always say that too." Jimin moved to the navigation station without being asked. She'd learned the systems quickly over the past few months, faster than Daehyun had expected. She plotted a course toward the signal. "It'll take us 6 hours. We have enough fuel, but it'll cut into our margins." Daehyun nodded. The decision was made. The Sol Dawn turned, her engines burning bright in the darkness, heading toward the unknown. 6 hours later, they found the wreck. It was a ship unlike anything in the Council databases. Sharp angles and dark metal, built for speed and violence. Scans showed it was dead in space, life support failing, hull breached in a dozen places. "Meteor storm," Hyunsu said, pointing at the damage patterns. They flew through something they shouldn't have. The life signs were faint. 3 beings, maybe 4. Large ones. Daehyun opened the communication channel, broadcasting in standard galactic. "This is the cargo vessel Sol Dawn. We received your distress call. Do you need assistance?" Silence. Then a sound that made Jimin grab the edge of her console. It was a growl, deep and threatening. More animal than anything else. Words came after, harsh and barely understandable through the accent. "Human ship, stay away. We do not need prey assistance." Prey, the word hung in the air. Daehyun had heard it before. Most predator species looked at humans and saw something weak, something to be protected or ignored. They saw the smooth skin, the small teeth, the lack of claws or natural armor. They didn't see what lived underneath. "Your ship is dying," Daehyun replied calmly. "Your crew with it. We can take you to the nearest station." Another growl, longer this time. Then the voice again. "You will bring us aboard. You will transport us to our outpost. You will not fail in this, or we will take your ship." Hyunsu looked at Daehyun. "That's a threat. They're threatening us while asking for rescue." "I noticed," Daehyun said. He'd dealt with aggressive species before. The trick was not to show fear. "We'll bring them aboard. Prepare the cargo bay. Seal off everything else." The docking process took an hour. The damaged ship had to be carefully maneuvered alongside the Sol Dawn. When the airlocks finally connected and the doors opened, Daehyun got his first look at their passengers. They were massive. 8 feet tall, maybe more, covered in fur that shifted between black and deep purple in the light. Their faces were feline, with eyes that caught the light and threw it back like mirrors. Claws as long as fingers extended from their hands. They moved with the grace of natural hunters, each step carefully placed, each movement economical and deadly. The first one through the airlock looked at Daehyun and curled its lip, showing teeth designed to tear meat. "I am Threx, these are Karvik and Rax, we are Vikrel. You will take us to coordinates we provide." Daehyun didn't step back. He'd learned long ago that predators could smell fear, even the alien ones. "I'm Captain Daehyun. This is my ship. You're welcome aboard, but you'll follow our rules." Threx's eyes narrowed. For a moment, Daehyun thought he'd made a fatal mistake. Then the Vikrel laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Brave for prey. Stupid, but brave." The third Vikrel, the smaller one, was staring at Jimin. He was young, Daehyun realized. Maybe the same age as his daughter if Vikrel aged anything like humans. The young one, Rax, tilted his head, studying Jimin with obvious curiosity. Jimin stared back, not blinking. Daehyun felt a flash of pride and worry in equal measure. "The cargo bay is prepared for you," Hyunsu said from the doorway, keeping his distance. "It's not fancy, but it's pressurized and warm." The Vikrel moved past them, Threx in the lead, Karvik following, and young Rax taking up the rear. As Rax passed Jimin, he made a sound, almost like a question. Jimin tilted her head, mirroring his gesture from before. When they were gone, Hyunsu let out a breath he'd been holding. "Do you know what those are?" "Those are Vikrel. They're apex predators from a death world worse than Earth. They've rejected every council offer to join. They think everyone else is beneath them." Daehyun watched the cargo bay monitors as the three Vikrel explored their temporary home. "I know what they are. I also know they're stuck on my ship for at least a week, maybe more. We're going to have to find a way to coexist." "They called us prey," Jimin said quietly. Daehyun looked at his daughter. She wasn't scared. She was angry. "Let them think that," he said. "Let them think that for now." The Sol Dawn turned again, heading deeper into uncharted space, carrying cargo more dangerous than anything Daehyun had ever transported before. Behind them, the wrecked Vikrel ship drifted into darkness already forgotten. Ahead, something waited, something that would change everything. In the cargo bay, young Rax pressed his face to the small window, watching the stars streak past. He'd never been on a prey species ship before. He'd been taught they were weak, cowardly, beneath notice. But the small human, the young female, she hadn't looked weak. She'd looked at him like an equal. That was new. That was interesting. Rax's tail twitched, a motion he didn't quite understand yet. 3 days into the journey, the tension on the Sol Dawn had become something you could almost touch. The Vikrel stayed in the cargo bay, refusing to interact with the human crew. They ate the rations Hyunsu left outside their door, never saying thank you, never acknowledging the humans except to give course corrections. Jimin hated it. She'd grown up hearing about the wonders of space, the different species, the chance to learn from aliens. Instead, she was stuck on a ship with 3 massive predators who treated her family like servants. She tried to initiate contact twice. Both times, Threx had simply stared at her until she left. On the third night, Jimin couldn't sleep. She wandered the corridors, eventually finding herself near the recreational area. It wasn't much, just a small room with exercise equipment and a viewing window, but it was her favorite place on the ship. She stepped inside and froze. Rax was there. The young Vikrel was standing at the window, looking out at the stars. He turned when she entered, his reflective eyes catching the dim light. For a long moment, neither of them moved. "I did not think humans used this space," Rax said. His voice was smoother than the adults, less growl and more actual words. "It's my space," Jimin replied, not backing down. "You're in my space," Rax's ears flicked forward. An expression she couldn't read crossed his face. "Your territory? You claim this?" "Yes." The young Vikrel moved toward her. He was already taller than her, despite being young. His claws flexed as he walked. Jimin's heart hammered, but she stood her ground. Running would be worse. Predators chase things that ran. "You defend your territory?" Rax asked, stopping just a few feet away. Jimin remembered her father's lessons from when she was young. He'd taught her taekwondo, not just the movements but the spirit behind it. The kihap, the battle cry, was meant to project strength and focus. It was meant to tell your opponent that you were not afraid. "Yes," she said again. Rax dropped into a crouch, his body coiling. "Then defend it. Show me you are not prey." It happened fast. Rax lunged forward, not attacking but testing his movements controlled. Jimin reacted on instinct, stepping to the side and bringing her hands up in a guard position. Rax circled her, moving like liquid shadow. "You move well," he said. "For prey." "Stop calling me that," Jimin snapped. Rax made a sound almost like a laugh. Then he rushed forward again. This time Jimin met him not with strength but with technique. She redirected his momentum, using his size against him. They danced around the small room, neither landing any real hits, both testing the other. Rax was playing. Jimin realized it suddenly. This wasn't a real fight. This was what young predators did, how they learned and bonded. He wasn't trying to hurt her. He was trying to understand her. The young Vikrel paused, then opened his mouth and made a sound that echoed through the room. It was a howl, high-pitched and aggressive, meant to intimidate. It was a declaration of dominance, a challenge. Every instinct in the sound said submit, back down, acknowledge the superior predator. Jimin felt something hot rise in her chest. She thought of her father facing down Threx in the airlock. She thought of her grandfather's stories about standing your ground. She thought of every time someone had underestimated her because she was young or small or human. She pulled air deep into her lungs, centered her body, and released a key-hop that came from her core. Yeah! The sound crashed through the recreational room like thunder. It wasn't a scream or a yell. It was a battle roar, refined over centuries of martial tradition, designed to project power and break an opponent's focus. It was the sound of a warrior refusing to yield. Rax stumbled backward, his eyes going wide. His ears flattened against his head. And then something incredible happened. His tail, which had been rigid behind him, started to wag. Not a small twitch. A full, enthusiastic wag. Jimin stared. Rax stared back, looking as shocked as she felt. The door burst open. Threx and Karvik filled the doorway, with Daehyun and Hyunsu right behind them. Everyone froze, taking in the scene. Jimin in a fighting stance. Rax with his tail wagging uncontrollably. "What is this?" Threx demanded, his voice dropping into a dangerous register. Rax tried to speak, but his tail kept wagging, betraying him. We were," she challenged. Karvik moved closer, his head tilting as he studied Rax's tail. "The response," he said quietly. "The joy response. I have never seen it triggered by another species." Threx's eyes narrowed as he looked at Jimin. "What did you do, human?" Daehyun stepped forward, putting himself slightly in front of his daughter. She defended herself. "That's all." "No," Threx growled. "That is not all. The joy response only happens when a Vikrel recognizes a worthy opponent. When they find someone who can match their spirit." He moved closer to Jimin, looming over her. "You are prey. Small and weak. How did you trigger this?" Jimin felt her father's presence behind her, solid and reassuring, but she didn't hide behind him. She looked up at Threx and said, "Maybe you should stop assuming you know what we are." The words hung in the air. Hyunsu made a small sound like he was praying. Daehyun's hand moved to Jimin's shoulder, ready to pull her back. Threx stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to Rax. What happened? Rax's tail had finally stopped wagging, though it still twitched occasionally. "I challenged her to a territorial dispute. She accepted. We played combat. He paused, searching for words. She roared. Like a Vikrel, like a warrior. My body responded before I could stop it." "Impossible," Karvik said, but he was looking at Jimin with new interest. "Prey species do not have warrior roars. They have fear cries." "Show me," Threx demanded, looking at Jimin. Jimin glanced at her father. Daehyun gave a tiny nod. She took a breath, centered herself again, and let out another key-hop. It wasn't quite as powerful as the first, but it still filled the room with sound and intention. Threx's ears twitched. Karvik took a step back, and Rax's tail started wagging again. "By the old hunts," Threx breathed. "They have psychological warfare. The prey species has psychological warfare. We're not prey," Daehyun said calmly. "We're human, and humans come from a death world just like you. We just evolved differently." Threx looked at Daehyun with something that might have been respect, or might have been reassessment of threat level. "Your world is listed as barely dangerous. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor." "We have endurance," Daehyun replied. "We have intelligence. We have the ability to inspire fear in our enemies through will alone. Our ancestors hunted animals bigger and stronger than themselves by simply refusing to give up." The silence stretched. Finally, Threx stepped back. "The young ones may interact," he said. "Under supervision. I would understand how prey can pretend to be predator so well." "We're not pretending," Jimin said quietly. Threx heard her. He looked at her one more time, his expression unreadable. Then he left, with Karvik following. Rax hesitated at the door, looking back at Jimin. His tail gave one more small wag before he controlled it and followed the adults. When they were alone, Hyunsu started laughing. It was the slightly hysterical laugh of someone who'd been very scared and was now relieved. "You made an alien apex predator's tail wag. I've been in space for 20 years and I've never seen anything like that." Daehyun pulled Jimin into a hug. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing you've ever done." "Probably both," Jimin admitted, her own adrenaline finally catching up with her. She was shaking now, Your grandfather would be proud, Daehyun said. Also probably horrified, but mostly proud. In the cargo bay, Threx was pacing. Karvik watched him waiting. Rax sat in the corner, his tail still occasionally twitching with remembered joy. This changes things, Threx finally said. Yes, Karvik agreed. Prey that roars. Prey that triggers the joy response. What are they? Not prey, Rax said quietly from his corner. Both adults turned to look at him. She is not prey. She stood her ground. She challenged back. Prey does not do that. Threx considered this. In V-Krell culture, understanding your opponent was the first step to respecting them. He had misunderstood the humans. That was dangerous. Misunderstanding could lead to mistakes. Mistakes in space could lead to death. We will observe them more carefully, Threx decided, and we will not underestimate them again. The alarm that woke them 2 days later was different from the distress signal alarm. This one meant immediate danger. Daehyun was on the bridge in seconds, still pulling on his jacket. The displays showed 5 ships, smaller than the Sol Dawn, but faster and armed with weapons that lit up the scanner like festival lights. Pirates, Hyunsu said, his fingers already working the defense systems. Chuktar, from the ship signatures. They're hailing us. The Chuktar were insectoid, their entire species built on hive mentality and predatory scavenging. They took what they wanted and asked questions never. Daehyun had heard stories about their pirate fleets. None of the stories ended well for the victims. He opened the communication channel. The face that appeared was barely humanoid, all compound eyes and clicking mandibles. Human vessel. The pirate clicked. You carry V-Krell. We want them. Surrender and you live. Resist and you die. Daehyun closed the channel. They want the V-Krell for bounty. Apparently there's good money for captured V-Krell warriors. Threx appeared in the doorway, with Karvik and Rax behind him. You cannot fight them, Threx said. Your ship is not a warship. Give us weapons and a shuttle. We will draw them away. That's suicide, Jimin said from the navigation station. That is V-Krell way, Threx replied simply. Better to die fighting than be captured by insects. Daehyun looked at the tactical display. 5 ships against 1. The math was bad, but there was other math to consider. Or we could work together. Threx laughed, that grinding sound. What can prey do in a fight? Stop calling us that, Daehyun said, his voice carrying the tone he'd used as a military officer. And watch. He turned to Hyunsu. Can you get the engines to overload? Hyunsu's eyes widened. You want me to make them explode? No. I want you to make them look like they're going to explode. Can you do it? A slow smile spread across Hyunsu's face. Oh, I can do that. Daehyun turned to the V-Krell. Can you operate weapons systems? Karvik nodded. All warriors are trained in combat. Any combat. Good. You'll take the starboard guns. I'll take port. Hyunsu will handle engineering. Jimin, you're on navigation. What about me? Rax asked. You watch and learn, Threx told him, but there was something in his voice now. Curiosity, maybe. The pirates were closing in, spreading out to surround them. Standard pack tactics. Daehyun had seen them before. He opened the channel again. We surrender. Please don't hurt us. He made his voice shake, made himself sound terrified. It wasn't hard to fake. He was terrified, but fear and action weren't opposites. His old commander had taught him that. Fear kept you alive if you used it right. The lead pirate clicked with pleasure. Smart prey. Drop your shields. Dropping shields, Daehyun said. Then he muted the channel and looked at his crew and passengers. On my mark, Jimin full burn toward the lead ship. Hyunsu, make us look like we're having a critical failure. Karvik, Threx, everything you've got on the 2 flanking ships. This is insane, Hyunsu muttered, but his hands were already flying over the engineering controls. The shields dropped. The pirate ships moved in, confident. They thought they'd won. They'd probably done this 100 times before. Prey surrenders, prey gets boarded, prey gets robbed or killed or sold. Mark, Daehyun said. Everything happened at once. The Sol Dawn leaped forward at full thrust, heading straight at the lead pirate ship. Sparks and gases started venting from her sides, making her look like she was tearing herself apart. The two flanking ships suddenly found themselves under fire from weapons that should have been offline, precise and deadly. The lead pirate ship panicked and tried to dodge. Too late. The Soul Dawn wasn't trying to ram them, just make them think she was. At the last second, Jimin spun the cargo ship, a maneuver that should have been impossible for something that size, bringing the port guns in line with the pirate's vulnerable underside. Daehyun fired. The pirate ship's shields collapsed. They weren't destroyed, but they were hurt and confused. Second target, Daehyun called out. The ship spun again. Behind them, one of the flanking ships was drifting, its engines dead. Karvik's shooting was disturbingly accurate. Threx made a sound like approval. You fight like you have nothing to lose. We're fighting like we have everything to lose, Daehyun corrected, lining up another shot. The pirates were regrouping, realizing they'd been tricked. But now they were angry. Angry enemies made mistakes. The three remaining functional ships came at them from different angles, firing everything they had. Shields at 40%, Hyun-soo reported. We can't take much more of this. Daehyun's mind raced. They'd bloodied the pirates, but it wasn't enough. Then he saw it. The damaged pirate ship drifting. Jimin, get us close to the dead ship, use it as cover. That's crazy. The orbit is unstable. Do it. The Soul Dawn dove toward the drifting pirate vessel. The other pirates held their fire, not wanting to hit their own ship. It bought them seconds, but seconds were enough. Daehyun studied the angles, the positions. An idea formed. Terrible and beautiful. Hyun-soo, can you overload their reactor from here? Hyun-soo looked at the drifting ship's schematics. Maybe, if I can hack their systems. But even if I do, we're too close. We'll be caught in the blast. Not if we use it to push us, Daehyun said. He looked at the Vikrel. How much acceleration can your species handle? Threx's eyes narrowed. More than humans. Why? Because we're going to turn that ship into a bomb and ride the shockwave. There was a moment of silence. Then Karvik made a sound that might have been a laugh. Prey does not think like this. Predator thinks like this. Told you to stop calling us prey, Daehyun muttered. Hyun-soo, do it. Jimin, the second that reactor goes, I need you to angle us just right. Too shallow and we tumble. Too steep and we burn up. No pressure, Jimin said, but her hands were steady on the controls. Rax was watching everything with wide eyes. His claws were extended, his whole body tense. This is how humans fight. With tricks and madness. This is how survivors fight, Daehyun replied. Hyun-soo? I'm in their systems. Reactor overload in 10 seconds. The other pirate ships were moving around, trying to get an angle. They had seconds before they'd be in firing position again. Daehyun counted down in his head. 10, 9, 8. Brace, he called out. 7, 6, 5. The reactor went critical. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the pirate ship exploded, a massive ball of fire and force expanding in all directions. The Soul Dawn was right at the edge, perfectly positioned. The shockwave hit them like a giant hand, pushing them away from the remaining pirates at incredible speed. Jimin fought the controls, angling them through the explosion. The ship screamed with stress. Metal groaned. Alarms blared. But they shot out the other side, moving faster than the pirates could track. Damage report, Daehyun gasped, his ribs aching from the acceleration. Shields gone. Hull breaches on decks 2 and 3, sealed. But we're alive, Hyun-soo reported. Threx pulled himself up from where he'd been thrown. He looked at Daehyun with an expression that was hard to read. You used their own ship as a weapon. You turned your weakness into their death. We're not dead yet. The pirates might still follow. But when they checked the scanners, the remaining 3 pirate ships were retreating. They'd lost 2 ships and gained nothing. The math no longer made sense for them. Karvik moved to the weapons station, studying the controls. Your shooting was adequate. For prey. Daehyun smiled. For prey, I'll take that as a compliment. Rax was looking at Jimin. You flew through an explosion. On purpose. My dad told me to, Jimin said, trying to keep her voice steady. Now that the danger was past, she was shaking. Your family is insane, Rax said. Jimin laughed, a slightly wild sound. Yeah, we get that a lot. Threx was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, We were wrong about you. About humans. You do not fight like prey. You fight like... He paused, searching for words. Like those who know death and refuse it anyway. That's what Death World species do, Daehyun said. We don't survive because we're strong. We survive because we refuse to stop trying. Something changed in that moment. Not friendship, not yet. But recognition. The V-Krell looked at the humans differently now. They'd fought together, bled together, survived together. In V-Krell culture, that meant something. When we reach our outpost, Threx said slowly, I will tell them what I saw here. I will tell them that humans are not prey, that they are hunters who choose not to hunt. That's all we want, Daehyun replied. To be seen for what we are. Later, in the cargo bay, Rax approached Jimin. Will you teach me? He asked. Teach you what? That sound, that roar, the one that made my tail move. Jimin smiled. That's called a keyhap. It's from my world, from my people's martial tradition. It takes years to master. I have years, Rax said simply. And after today, I want to understand your people better. You are interesting. Jimin thought about it. Then she nodded. Okay, I'll teach you. But you have to teach me something too. What? How to fight like a V-Krell. Rax's tail wagged once, and this time he didn't try to stop it. Deal. The next evening, something unprecedented happened on the Sol Dawn. The humans and V-Krell shared a meal together. It started when Minseo, the ship's medic who'd been sleeping through all the excitement, finally emerged from her quarters. She'd been exhausted from treating a sick passenger at their last stop and had slept through the pirate attack entirely. When she found out what happened, she insisted on checking everyone for injuries. The V-Krell had been suspicious at first, but Minseo had a calm way about her that seemed to work even on apex predators. She treated their minor wounds with efficient kindness, never showing fear or excessive caution. When she was done, she looked at the time and said, Well, it's dinner time. You're all welcome to join us. Threx had started to refuse, but Rax spoke up. I would like to understand human food. Karvik had looked at Threx, something passing between them. Finally, Threx nodded. We will observe your feeding habits. Now they sat in the small dining area, humans on one side, V-Krell on the other. Hyunsu had prepared a simple meal, rice and vegetables and some of the spicy kimchi his wife had packed before they left Earth. The V-Krell watched as the humans ate. Rax leaned forward, sniffing the food. What is the red vegetable? Kimchi, Jimin explained. It's fermented cabbage with spices. Why does it smell like pain? Karvik asked. Daehyun smiled. Because it's spicy. It hurts a little when you eat it. All three V-Krell stared at him. You eat food that causes pain? Threx said slowly. On purpose? It's not real pain, Hyunsu explained. It's just heat from the peppers. It's enjoyable. Prey enjoys pain, Karvik said, sounding genuinely confused. Minseo laughed. We're not prey, and yes, many humans enjoy spicy food. It makes eating more interesting. Rax reached out carefully and took a small piece of kimchi. He sniffed it, then placed it in his mouth. His eyes went wide. His ears flattened. A small whine escaped him. Then he swallowed and his tail started wagging. It burns, he said, sounding amazed. But it's good. Why is it good? Because humans are weird, Jimin said, grinning. Threx tried some next, more carefully. His reaction was more controlled, but his pupils dilated. This is a weapon disguised as food. Only if you're not used to it, Daehyun said. People from my culture, from Korea, eat this all the time. We start eating it as children. You train your young to endure pain through food, Karvik said. It wasn't a question. This is warrior training. No, it's just food, Hyunsu protested, but he was smiling. The V-Krell looked at each other. Then Threx said, Everything about your species is backwards. You look like prey. You act like predators. You eat pain. You fight with tricks instead of strength. He paused, searching for words. You confuse us. Good. Minso said cheerfully. Being underestimated is an advantage. The conversation continued, becoming easier as the meal went on. Rax asked questions constantly, fascinated by everything. How did humans sleep? Why did they have hair only on their heads? Could they really sweat through their skin? That last question led to Daehyun explaining persistence hunting. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours, he said. Sometimes days. We would run until the animal collapsed from heat exhaustion. We couldn't run as fast, but we could run longer. We just wouldn't stop. The Vikril went quiet. Finally, Karvik said, "That is more terrifying than any weapon." "Why?" Jimin asked. "Because it means you never give up. If a human decides to hunt something, that thing cannot escape. It can only run until it dies." Karvik's claws flexed. "We are ambush predators. We are fast and strong, but we tire quickly. A human could hunt a Vikril to death if they wanted. We don't want to," Daehyun said firmly. "We gave up persistence hunting thousands of years ago. We're farmers now, mostly. Builders. We create instead of destroy." "But you could hunt," Threx said. "If you chose to." "Yes," Daehyun admitted. "If we chose to. But we chose differently." Threx leaned back, studying Daehyun with those reflective eyes. "My people have a saying. The most dangerous warrior is the one who fights for peace because they understand war. We have a similar saying," Minseo said. "Speak softly and carry a big stick." "What does this mean?" "It means be polite, but be ready to fight if you need to." Rax made that sound that was almost a laugh. "Humans are more Vikrel than the council species." "The council species think we're too aggressive," Jimin said. "They're afraid of us." "They're right to be afraid," Threx said. "But they are wrong about why. They think you are dangerous because you are violent. They do not see that you are dangerous because you are patient." The meal ended with Hyunseo bringing out rice cakes for dessert. The Vikrel tried them cautiously, finding them strange but not unpleasant. As they ate, Daehyun's communication console beeped. He checked it and his expression changed. "We'll reach your outpost tomorrow," he announced. "They've confirmed our approach vector." The mood shifted slightly. Tomorrow, this strange journey would end. The Vikrel would return to their people, and the humans would go back to their cargo runs. But something had changed between them, something that couldn't be unchanged. Later that night, Jimin found Rax in the observation room again. He seemed to like that space. She sat down next to him, looking out at the stars. "What will you tell your people?" she asked. "About humans?" Rax was quiet for a long moment. "The truth. That you are not what we thought. That you are hunters who chose to be farmers. That you are prey-shaped predators." He looked at her. "That you made my tail wag," Jimin smiled. "Will they believe you?" "Threx will support my story. Karvik too. They saw what I saw." He paused. "Will your people believe you? About the Vikrel?" "Probably not," Jimin admitted. "They'll think we're crazy for helping you. The Vikrel have a reputation." "As do humans," Rax said. "The council fears you. Did you know that?" "We're not scary." "You are the scariest," Rax corrected. "Because no one understands you. You come from a death world, but you act peaceful. You have no natural weapons, but you win fights. You look weak, but you are strong." His tail twitched. "My teacher once said that the most dangerous enemy is the one you cannot understand." "Are we enemies?" Jimin asked quietly. "No," Rax said immediately. "Not enemies. Friends, maybe. Or at least not enemies." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Rax said, "Jimin, will you teach me more?" "More human things?" "What kind of things?" "Everything. Your language, your fighting styles, your food that causes pain. I want to understand." Jimin thought about it. The journey was ending tomorrow, but maybe this was just the beginning of something else. "Sure," she said. "And you'll teach me Vikrel things?" "Yes, but I warn you, Vikrel things are mostly about hunting and honor and territory disputes." "Sounds fun," Jimin said, grinning. Rax's tail wagged again. He didn't try to stop it anymore. In his quarters, Threx was composing a message to the Vikrel outpost. It was difficult. "How did you explain that everything you thought you knew was wrong? How did you tell your people that the prey species was actually a sleeping predator?" Karvik entered without knocking. "You are struggling with the report." "How do I tell them?" "They will not believe. Tell them we fought alongside humans, that they saved our lives, that they proved themselves worthy." Karvik sat down. "Tell them the truth, Threx, that we were wrong." "The council will hear of this," Threx said. "If Vikrel and humans are seen together working together, Let them hear, Karvik said. The council thinks they know everything. They know nothing about real strength. He flexed his claws. Real strength is choosing peace when you could choose war. The humans understand this. Perhaps we should learn from them. Threx looked at his companion. You have changed your mind about them, have you not? Threx thought about the battle, about Daehyun's crazy plan, about Jimin's roar, about the way they fought without hesitation. Yes, he admitted. I have changed my mind. They are not prey. They are something else. Something new. Then write that, Karvik said simply. Threx nodded and began typing. The message he sent that night would reach the Vikrel outpost hours before they arrived. It would cause confusion, disbelief, and curiosity. But most importantly, it would change things. Because Threx was a respected warrior, and his words carried weight. In the message he wrote, We were rescued by humans. They fought alongside us. They proved themselves worthy of respect. I request that Elder Viral meet with them personally. They are not what we believed. They are not prey. They are partners. The word partners would cause the most controversy. The Vikrel had never called any other species that before. But as Threx sent the message, he felt it was right. The humans had roared and the Vikrel had responded. Now it was time to see what came next. The Vikrel outpost appeared on their screens like a massive claw emerging from an asteroid. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. All dark metal and sharp angles, bristling with weapons that tracked the Soul Dawn from the moment they entered range. Daehyun kept his hand steady on the controls, following the approach vector exactly. One wrong move here and those weapons would turn them into debris. Beside him, Jimin was pale but focused. Hyunsu was muttering prayers under his breath. They're hailing us, Minseo said from the communication station. A face appeared on the screen. Female Vikrel, Daehyun guessed, though the differences were subtle. Her fur was darker than Threx's, marked with scars that spoke of many battles. Her eyes were cold and calculating. This was a creature who had survived by being smarter and more ruthless than everyone around her. Human vessel, she said, her voice like silk over steel. I am Elder Viral. You carry 3 of my warriors. Yes, Elder, Daehyun replied, keeping his tone respectful but not subservient. We rescued them from a damaged ship and provided transport as requested. And fought pirates alongside them, Viral said. And fed them pain food. And made young Rax's tail wag. Her eyes narrowed. You have been busy, Captain Daehyun. So she'd read Threx's report. Daehyun wondered how much trouble that had caused. We did what was necessary to survive. Necessary, Viral repeated. An interesting word. She leaned forward. I wish to meet these humans who confuse my warriors. You will dock. You will come to my chambers, and you will explain yourselves. The channel closed. Jimin looked at her father. That sounded like a threat. It was, Daehyun agreed, but also an opportunity. She's curious. Curiosity is better than hostility. The docking process was smooth but nerve-wracking. Armed Vikrel warriors lined the docking bay, all of them watching the human ship with suspicious eyes. When the airlock opened, Threx, Karvik, and Rax exited first. Then they turned and waited. Daehyun stepped out with Jimin, Hyunsu, and Minseo behind him. The Vikrel warriors stared. Some made low growling sounds, but Threx raised a hand and silence fell. These humans saved our lives, Threx announced. They are under my protection. Any who challenge them challenges me. It was clearly some kind of formal declaration. The other warriors backed down, though they kept staring. Rax moved to stand between Jimin and the nearest warriors, his posture protective. His tail gave a small wag when Jimin touched his arm in thanks. They were led through corridors that seemed designed to intimidate. Everything was slightly too large, slightly too dark, with strategic lighting that created shadows where predators could hide. It would have worked, except Daehyun had spent 20 years in military installations. He recognized psychological warfare when he saw it. Elder Vral's chambers were at the top of the outpost. The room was circular, with windows showing the stars beyond. Vral sat on a raised platform, with other Vikrel warriors arranged around her. This was a formal hearing, Daehyun realized. They were being judged. Humans, Vral said, her voice echoing in the large space. You have done something no other species has managed. You have earned the respect of Vikrel warriors. Explain how. Daehyun stepped forward. We treated them with dignity. We fought alongside them when attacked. We shared our food and our space. We didn't see them as enemies. We saw them as people. Pretty words, one of the other Vikrel said. But words are easy. Actions matter. Then judge us by our actions, Jimin said, stepping up beside her father. Several Vikrel growled at her boldness, but she didn't flinch. We could have left them in their damaged ship. We could have surrendered to the pirates. We could have treated them like dangerous cargo. We didn't. Vrel's eyes fixed on Jimin. You are the one who made Rax's tail respond, the young female who roared like a warrior. I defended my territory, Jimin said simply. And myself. Just like anyone would. Show me, Vrel commanded. This roar of yours. Jimin glanced at her father. Daehyun nodded. She took a breath, centered herself like her grandfather had taught her, and released a keyhap that filled the chamber. It wasn't a scream or a shout. It was pure projected will, the sound of someone who refused to be intimidated. The effect was immediate. Several of the younger Vikrel had their tails twitch. Rax's started wagging openly, and Elder Vrel's ears flicked forward in surprise. Remarkable, Vrel said quietly. A psychological weapon built into your culture. How many humans can do this? Millions, Daehyun replied. It's part of our martial traditions. We teach it to our children. You train your young for war while teaching them peace, Vrel observed. This is very Vikrel. This is very human, Daehyun corrected gently. We've learned that the best way to keep peace is to be ready for war. But we've also learned that being ready for war doesn't mean you have to fight. Vrel stood and walked down from her platform. She was even larger up close, towering over Daehyun. She could kill him with one swipe of her claws. He stood his ground. I am going to test you, Vrel said. A traditional Vikrel fear test. Holographic, so you will not be harmed. But your reactions will be real. Do you accept? What does this test involve? Minseo asked, her medic's caution showing. You will face a simulation of our world's apex predator. The beast that hunted my ancestors. Most species run. Some freeze. Very few stand their ground. I want to see what humans do. Daehyun looked at his crew. Hyunsu looked terrified but nodded. Minseo shrugged. Jimin's jaw was set with determination. We accept, Daehyun said. The room's lighting changed. Holographic projectors created a jungle environment, hot and humid. Sound effects made it feel real. Then the predator appeared. It was massive, easily twice the size of a Vikrel with 6 legs and a mouthful of teeth like swords. It roared, and the sound was designed to trigger every prey instinct in a person's brain. Hyunsu whimpered but held his position. Minseo's hands were shaking, but she didn't move. Jimin had gone very still, her breathing controlled. Daehyun felt his heart racing, but he'd faced fear before. Fear was information. You acknowledged it, then you decided what to do with it. The holographic beast charged. Logic said it couldn't hurt them. Instinct said run. Daehyun planted his feet and didn't move. Beside him, Jimin did the same. At the last second, Minseo closed her eyes but stayed standing. Hyunsu fell to one knee but didn't flee. The beast passed through them harmlessly and disappeared. The jungle environment faded. They were back in Vral's chamber with dozens of Vikrel staring at them in silence. 4 humans, Vral said slowly. 4 humans faced the nightmare beast. None ran, none froze completely. One would not even close her eyes. She was looking at Jimin. How? Because running wouldn't help, Jimin said, her voice slightly shaky but clear. If it was real, running would just make us tired before we died. Better to face it and look for weaknesses. And if there are no weaknesses? There are always weaknesses, Daehyun said. That's what humans do. We find weaknesses. We exploit them. We survive. Vral turned to face her warriors. I have lived for 70 cycles. I have met hundreds of species. None of them have ever responded to the fear test like this. She looked back at the humans. The council calls you prey. They are fools. You are not prey. You are not even predators in the traditional sense. Then what are we? Minseo asked. Survivors, Vral said simply. The most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Because predators can be fought. Prey can be hunted. But survivors? Survivors cannot be stopped. They adapt. They persist. They find a way no matter what. She moved back to her platform and sat down. I am declaring a formal alliance between the Vikrel and humanity. This is unprecedented. This will cause problems with the Council. I do not care. We recognize strength when we see it, and you are strong in ways that matter. Threk stepped forward. Elder, the Council will protest. They fear humans already. Let them fear, Vral said. Better to ally with humans than to oppose them. Because if humans decide to truly hunt something, That thing will not escape. Is this not so, Captain Daehyun? Daehyun thought carefully about his answer. We prefer partnership to hunting. But yes, if humans commit to something, we see it through, no matter how long it takes. Persistence predators, Karvik said quietly. The worst kind. The best kind, Vral corrected. For allies, she gestured to one of her attendants. Send a message to the Galactic Council. Inform them that the Vikrel have chosen to ally with humanity. Inform them that we recognize humans as fellow warriors. And inform them that any species who harms humans will answer to Vikrel claws. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some Vikrel seemed pleased, others shocked. But none protested. Vral's word was law here. Rax moved to stand beside Jimin. Does this mean we can keep learning from each other? I think so, Jimin said, smiling despite her nervousness. Good. I still have not mastered your pain food. That made Jimin laugh, breaking some of the tension. Other Vikrel looked at them curiously. A human and a Vikrel standing together, comfortable with each other. It was new. It was strange. But it was also right somehow. 6 months later, the galaxy had adjusted to the new reality. The Vikrel-Human alliance was official. The council had protested, debated, and finally accepted it. They had no choice. The two species together were too formidable to oppose. On Earth, in a training facility outside Seoul, the first joint Vikrel-Human military academy was opening. Jimin and Rax were among the first students, along with 50 others from both species. The goal was to create a new generation that understood both cultures, both ways of thinking. Daehyun and his wife Soo-jin watched from the observation deck as the students assembled below. Threk stood beside them, now serving as a cultural liaison between the species. Your daughter will do well, Threk said. She has the spirit of a warrior. She has the spirit of a survivor, Soo-jin corrected gently. That's more important. Below, an instructor was addressing the students. He was Vikrel, massive and intimidating. You are here to learn, he growled. Humans will learn Vikrel combat. Vikrel will learn human strategy. Together you will become something new, something better. Rax leaned over to Jimin. I am excited and nervous. Is this normal? Completely normal, Jimin whispered back. That's how you know you're about to do something important, the instructor continued. The galaxy sees us as odd allies, predators and prey, they say. They are wrong. We are both predators. We are both prey. We are both survivors. And together we are unstoppable. A cheer went up from the students, human voices mixing with Vikrel growls in a sound that had never been heard before. In the observation deck, Hyunsoo appeared with Minseo. They'd both been offered positions at the academy. Hyunsoo as an engineering instructor, Minseo as medical staff. Who would have thought? Hyunsoo said, watching the scene below. When we picked up that distress signal 6 months ago, I never imagined this. A predator cub howled in play, Daehyun said quietly, remembering that moment in the recreational room. And a human roared louder, and everything changed. The cub's tail wagged, Threx added. That was the moment. That was when we knew humans were different. No, Daehyun said. That was the moment you understood we were the same. Both of us trying to survive. Both of us stronger together than apart. The instructor dismissed the students to their first training session. As they dispersed, Jimin and Rax walked together, talking animatedly. Around them, other students were forming similar bonds, human and Vikrel mixing naturally. This will change the galaxy, Soo-jin observed. It already has, Threx replied. The council thought humans were dangerous because of your technology or your violence. They did not understand that humans are dangerous because you make allies out of enemies. You turned us from potential threats into partners. How many other species could you do this with? All of them, Daehyun said simply. If they give us a chance. Below, a young Vikrel student attempted a keyhap, the sound coming out wrong but enthusiastic. Her human partner laughed and showed her the proper breathing technique. Nearby, a human student was learning to read Vikrel body language, watching tail movements and ear positions. The future was being built right there. One friendship at a time, one shared meal at a time, one training session at a time. The galaxy would resist it at first, fear it maybe, but eventually they would see what Vral had seen. That humans weren't prey pretending to be predators or predators pretending to be prey. They were humans, survivors from a death world who had chosen to survive together rather than alone, who had looked at the apex predators of another world and said, Not, "We will fight you, but we will stand beside you." And when a human stood beside you, they didn't leave. They persisted. They endured. They found a way to make it work no matter what. That was what made them dangerous. That was what made them valuable. That was what made them human. In the distance, the sun was setting over Seoul, painting the sky in colors that would look alien on other worlds but felt like home here. Daehyun put his arm around Sujin and watched his daughter begin a new chapter of her life, partnered with an alien who would have been her enemy in another timeline. But this was their timeline, where a howl had been answered with a roar, where a tail had wagged in joy, where two species had found in each other something they didn't know they needed. Partners, equals, friends, and maybe, just maybe, the future.